That's weird, there's a giant shimmer right there. That is someone who knows what the lighting does to this glaze, who has experience with this glaze. This is how it's supposed to come out on a porcelain textile, I imagine. But this here is probably somebody at the AMACO studio who's like, look, we gotta give him the rainbow. We gotta give him the Mars crystal. Hello, you dirty potters, and welcome to another episode of Glaze Review, where I take glazes off the shelf and I test them for you before they even get into your hands. In today's episode, we are testing Mars Crystal CO-13 from the AMACO company. This is from their new line of Cosmos glazes. These have been a pleasure and a pain to test for you, let me tell you. Straight off the bat, the difficulty with these glazes is that you need to use them in a very, very specific way. You cannot pour them on like I usually do. Like 90% of the glazes I use, I pour on, and they usually come out better than what they say when you brush on. But you cannot pour these on, so please pay attention to the instructions on the back and follow them to a T, because there is a bit of a learning curve with these. Luckily for you, there's a cute dad who does a whole channel of testing them for you. I don't know his name. I'll find it though. Half of these glazes come out phenomenal, and the other half will not come out for you at all unless you follow the exact instructions on the bottle. So make sure you read those. I like to do one of these whenever I open the bottle to get the extra glaze mineral. Oh yeah. Are you one of those people? I'm one of those people. For our test today, we have a white clay body, a brown clay body, a couple of porcelain bowls, and an amalgamation of clay that I've made for my recycle. This is kind of the garbage clay that I use, but it's basically these two clays put together and meshed together to make brand new clay. These two are going to be our main testers. I'm probably going to do a liner glaze with these two, and this one we'll see if we can mix it up with another AMACO glaze just to see what kind of results we get, because sometimes they're quite surprising.
Two out the door, then you have magic.
Okay, and as we usually do, let's talk about what we're putting in our kiln before we actually put it in. This here is a white base test, B mixed with grog, layered down properly, no glaze on the inside, as most of these cosmic glazes say that you should not have a liner glaze with them. We do liner glaze tests anyway, just to see if they'll survive, because some glazes do, some glazes don't, but this one is following the rules. This is just our white clay test style. 4 layers on the top, 3 or 2 here, and 1 at the bottom, because this is a runny glaze. This one here is essentially the same exact thing, but it is on a brown clay. I really just want a brown clay or a red clay variant of what we're doing for our base test. So here's our white clay test style, and here's our brown clay test style. Notice how much room I'm leaving at the bottom of these. This is because in my experience, Cosmos glazes are a very runny glaze. This is part of the reason they tell you to layer down. More layers on the top than the bottom. Now that we've made our test styles following the rules, we're going to make some breaking the rules. This here is a completely inlined bowl with C-10 snow and CO-13 on the outside. All of these glazes are layered down, and the only thing we really followed with this bowl is that we brushed it on. So there's 4 or 3 layers up here, and we layered down almost with all of these test styles. But it says don't put a liner glaze in, and there indeed is a liner glaze on the inside in the form of C-10. We also did a secondary one, but this one has a bit more glaze. I purposely put more glaze here than this one over here just to see if there's a bit of a difference. These are also both porcelain clay bodies, so we will get to see them in their purest form on these two. Now this vase here breaks all the rules. Not only do I have a lot of clearance on the bottom, I did layer down, and that's about the only rule I really followed, but I poured on the entirety of CO-13 on the inside. I also put C-10 on the top, the snow glaze, and I layered down a bit. So there's like 5 or 6 layers up here, which is why I left so much clearance at the bottom, because I know this is going to run. Okay, with all that being said, let's put them in the kiln. This is our white brushed on test style with CO-13 Mars crystal. Of course, as we do with our first white and brown test styles, we followed the rules. We brushed 4 layers on the top, then 3, then 2, then 1, effectively layering down with no liner glaze on the inside. And this came out pretty good. I will say, from my expectation, a lot of the Cosmos glazes end up pitting, especially the ones that are kind of like cousin colors, like Solar Rainbow and Dark Star. But this one seems like the cousin to Solar Flare, which is Mars Crystal, and this one doesn't have any pits in it, and it's fairly consistent. Now let's take a look at our red clay test style. It's really difficult to see because when you look at it in regular light, you're like, okay, I can kind of see the crystals there. You know, I get what they were going for, right? The kind of red tinge. And you look at it in direct sunlight and you can really see the crystals. But you essentially need direct sunlight in order to see the crystals on these types of products from the Cosmos line. Otherwise, you're really not going to see them. Even me in real life, I can see them because the camera's picking up a certain vibration, right? I can see them, but I still can't see them as well as if I put them outside like this in the direct sunlight. And even then, it's so shiny that it's difficult to see. It really, really refracts a lot of the color. So it's difficult no matter how you slice it, but I am pretty happy that I did not get any pits on either of these two, although I did use them in the standard way they're supposed to be used. The real surprise came when I tested them on 2 stoneware white clay bodies and gave them a liner glaze just to see if they'll survive, and they surprised me. This is C-10 on the inside with Mars Crystal on the outside, and they actually look really nice, really, really nice. I'm surprised they survived with a liner glaze in the first place. They didn't pit, they didn't run, nothing like that. We barely follow the rules with this, and they both came out fantastic. This is a great sign for this glaze and its consistency. Furthermore, you can really see the crystals on here versus the other ones. I put way more layers on this than I did with the other two when I followed the instructions. Look at how much more crystal I get in direct sunlight than with the other 2 products. You can really see it. The other bowl here also has the same amount of crystallization and the same amount of direct sunlight, even more I would say somewhere near the bottom than the other one. They really stopped me in my tracks. The one test style that did suck, however, was the red clay test style that I broke all the rules on. I poured this on, I put a liner glaze on the inside, and I put Lumos on the outside, and it did pit. This thing does have limits, right? You can't abuse it, but you can misuse it a little bit. So a lot of these didn't get the crystallization that I wanted. Even though it's on a red clay body, it still didn't get even the darkness that I wanted. The combo up here looks great, but again, the pitting did not take. Unfortunately, you can't push this glaze too far, but you can break the liner glaze rule, I found, and that's a great thing for us. You know, now having experience with this glaze, I understand why they put like direct, because when you look at the bottle, you're like, that's weird, there's a giant shimmer right there. That is someone who knows what the lighting does to this glaze, who has experience with this glaze. This is how it's supposed to come out on a porcelain test style, I imagine. But this here is probably somebody at the AMACO studio who's like, look, we gotta give him the rainbow. We gotta give him the Mars crystal. So we gotta put direct sunlight on it. If you're planning on using this glaze at a table to sell your work or at an art table or an art show or something, make sure there is direct sunlight on the part that has the most crystallization on the pot for this glaze. Otherwise, it's just going to kind of look like brown alumina. Well, thank you, Dirty Potters, for joining me today. Hopefully you liked that review of Mars Crystal. This one, along with Solar Flare, have really surprised me. Dark Star and Solar Rainbow I'm not too fond of, but it's because they're so non-user friendly. As for Mars Crystal and Solar Flare, you can break the rules a little bit. Good luck on your next kiln load. Remember to hit all those YouTube buttons, and I will see you, Dirty Potters, next week.
Thank you for your patronage.
Hello, my friends, hello. I'm sorry, I've been watching a lot of Land Before Time. If you didn't know, Land Before Time does make a cartoon version of itself that's still up to date and coming out with new episodes. I have a child because I know that, but like I feel like no one else knows that.